We're still a year away from hearing what the probable cause is in this accident, and that is going to be the final conclusion. But there is a lot going on here. It tells us a lot about what happened. 2 miles before the curve where the derailment took place are these angled signs, T30 and P30, meaning there's a 30-mile-per-hour speed limit up ahead. The NTSB says the engineer told them he didn't recall seeing it. And he didn't apply brakes until he saw this sign, a horizontal version of the one we first showed you that says the speed limit for this train at 30 miles per hour starts now. But by then, it was too late. The conductor, who was on an orientation trip and looking over paperwork to learn the route, said there was minimal conversation with the engineer in the cab, and then he heard the engineer say or mumble something. Then he looked up and sensed the train was becoming airborne. He was probably right. The massive 275,000-pound locomotive left the tracks, barely making a mark.
There were witness marks, we call those witness marks, from the wheels on the ties where the wheels had departed the track.
The engineer says he planned to start setting the brakes a mile before reaching the curve, that he felt comfortable with the route, having made 7 to 10 observational trips in a locomotive during training and 3 trips behind the throttle operating a train. Was that enough? What we hear here strongly suggests that the engineer lost his situational awareness, meaning he wasn't where he thought he was. We've seen this in all kinds of accidents, often referred to in flying investigations, and much of the technology now used in the cockpits of airliners is designed to address these kinds of situational incidents or areas to prevent accidents.
So were the engineer and the conductor young fellows, or?
No, these weren't kids out of high school or college. I mean, the engineer was 55 years old. He'd worked for Amtrak for some time. He himself started out as a conductor, became an Amtrak engineer. The conductor who was learning also had been with Amtrak for a number of years. He was 48 years old.
So pretty experienced. Is this the only slow curve that they had to deal with?
No, and as we talked about in 4, we have 52 curves between the Canadian border and the Columbia River on the Amtrak Cascades route that have 30-mile-per-hour curves in it. Also, there are some curves there that are 20 miles per hour and even less. One of us is across the Ballard Bridge that a lot of people see up and go not far from the locks, because there's a curve going into that bridge, a curve going out of that bridge. And looking, because I take that train a lot, you can see that sign, it's T20.
So we've heard a lot about this positive train control.
Right.
In this case, would it have made a difference?
In this case, this seems to be a classic case where they talk about this making a difference, because the engineer was clearly going too fast going into the curve, 78 miles per hour. He only shed maybe 2 miles per hour in speed from the time that he realized, based on previous reports, to the time the train left the track. This would be a classic case. Also, for example, if there are 2 trains on a collision course, this would stop those trains. It would have slowed this one down. It would keep a train from going off on an industrial siding at a high rate of speed. Those are just some of the things, but it's a very complicated system, and that's why its implementation has been delayed, and we're hoping they can have this line reopen and PTC up and running here in the next few months.
All right, Glenn, thanks.